In case you didn't know, I am on the road to scratch, but I'm also on the road to hitting the ball further and further over 400 yards comfortably, because next year I'm competing in European long drive. But today's video, we're going to talk about how you can gain near enough 30 yards just by making a few tweaks to your driver and a few tweaks to your swing. So, should we get stuck into it? I think so. Now, before we get stuck into the details, the big thing you need to realize is one of the quickest and easiest ways that you're going to be able to hit the ball further is by increasing your club speed. For every 1 mile an hour you can increase your club speed, you know if you're going to increase like 5 yards, which it makes a humongous difference when you go through, the clubs in your bag. So today's not about club speed, but please, please, please do not neglect how important it is having a bit more club speed. All right? Good. I just wanted to get that off my chest. Now, the first part you need to make sure you've done or are about to do is get a fitting for your big stick. It actually pains me the amount of people that don't get a club fitted to them. Hitting driver is like a completely different part of your game. And if you really want to get the most out of your ability off the tee, you're going to need to get a club that suits you. And that starts with the shaft. That's right, the engine of the club. Yeah. Now, there are so many different shafts, and what it's about is getting the one that purely suits you. One that bends at the right place, is the right flex, that ultimately is going to get the best ball flight for you and optimize your ball flight. So many amateurs struggle with that big cut, that big slice, or that big hook, or struggling to get it airborne, or hitting it too high. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if they had a fit in, it would massively aid them to sort that out pretty much straight away. Now, the thing that I did is I got a fitting about 2 years ago. I'll be honest, without being as humble as possible, I could probably swing any fucking shaft and I'd be able to hit it at this point, due to the fact that I've got a decent bit of club head speed, right? So for me, it's all about just accuracy and optimizing that. And the shaft that I've used in my standard driver, I use actually my long driver on the course nowadays, but my standard driver is in the Dealer Rogue Silver. Now, it's just a good shaft for me. Like it was the most accurate I hit on the day, and ever since I've used it, I've never changed, because I know that it is the shaft for me. And the biggest thing that it controlled and the biggest issue I had was that spin. It was just nothing worse than hitting that big spinny ball that just literally went nowhere. Like, I was tired of getting outdriven by people who were swinging the club 20 mile an hour slower than me. Yeah. That just shouldn't happen, all right? And the shaft is a big part of that. So the biggest thing it did, or first of all, was lower the spin rate, way more controlled, gave me a bit more of a penetrating ball flight, and it reduced the big slices, the big hooks, by just giving me a bit more stability through the ball. And who the hell doesn't want that? So the first thing you need to go do, go get a fitting. Literally all the big brands do fittings at all the big shops now, just so that you can then buy a shaft of them. Yeah. It is worth it. You don't even have to buy the club. Just go and get a fitting and find out what shaft you need. So the next bit of the fitting that I want you to really look at is the club head. And what really matters when it comes to the club head is, where are the weights? Where is the weight in the club? Now, if you have the weight more towards the back, as you can see on my Sim 2, you can actually put a weight in the back. You'll notice mine's out. I'll explain that in a second. And you can have a weight at the front, right? The more the weight's at the back, that's going to help you get the ball in the air. There's a reason why your irons that are game improvement irons and help your players that need a bit more help have a big, massive sole on them. Ultimately, it's a bit of weight to really help you get the ball up. Now, if you have the opposite side of that, you tend to have the weight more forward in the head. Now, I will kid you not, when I actually got this quite recently. I went for a fitting, just a basic Callaway fitting, believe it or not. It wasn't anything special. I literally went fitting for the new AI Smoke, and I just wanted to see, will the numbers change? Like, is there anything I could adapt to my driver? And one of the biggest things we did was just put a 14-gram weight in the face. Now, before, I'd never done this. I think here before standing, in a standard sim, it was like 4 grams, and then you had like 10 grams at the back, right? I lost about 800 RPM worth of spin. That's a fucking lot of spin, right? That's the difference between a ball sailing up into the clouds and a ball absolutely penetrating the wind and bouncing on from the fairway. Roughly added like 20 yards consistently, and it was just, yeah, ball was absolutely going miles. And this is what I would say most people need to look at with their driver head. If you're that person that struggles getting the ball up and you need help really, you know, getting higher, get the weight at the back. If you're that person that is generating far too much spin, is massively slicing the ball, then maybe look to put the weight a bit more forward. You'll also find that some drivers have that transitioning weight in the face as well. You can put it in the middle, or you can put it more towards the hosel, which helps the draw, puts less weight in the toe, so it's easier to flip, get the club face square, or you can then put it more in the toe, which then helps the people that maybe hook the ball too much, so it makes it harder to rotate the face through contact. Again, little aids, but the big thing is, where are you having this weight? Where do you need it? What's going to make a big difference? And before people ask, they're going to be like, surely it's about loft as well. Yes, of course it's about loft. But this next little bit that we're going to talk about when it actually comes to the swing is where I'd start thinking, what loft do you need? Where are you sort of at? How can you basically generate a bit more height? How can you optimize your launch angles? So we're going to go through that now. Right, so the final piece of the puzzle in terms of optimizing it and up to getting the most out of your distance. And by the way, just by getting that fitting, I genuinely think you'd probably have a more consistent driver, you would have a more consistent swing, and you'd probably gain a roughly about 10 or 15 yards with just that, genuinely. With just getting the right shaft, getting the right weight in the right places, it'll make a huge difference. But the next bit is a big part of it, and that's where the extra 15 yards is going to come from. All right, and that's how you're delivering your face to the ball, your angle of attack, as well as the loft on your club face. Now, mine is slightly different. You know, I do long drive, so realistically, mine's always going to be the extreme end of the spectrum. Yeah, I realistically, for people who don't know, probably hit about like 7-8 degree up on the ball, which means I have to make more adjustments. I can use very little loft on my driver. My long drive is 4 degrees that I'm using on the course at the moment. My standard driver that I used to use was 6.5. All right, that's a lot lower than most people would use. Yeah, your standard person on the course probably use like 10 to 9 degrees. Now, what changes whether you need more or less loft is the angle in which you're coming at the ball. And for a lot of people who may be hitting that big slice, the chances are you're coming down on the ball, which is why if you're that person, you now want to be thinking about, how can I stay behind the ball a bit more instead of coming over the top and coming down here or hitting down on my driver? How can I stay a bit more behind the ball and really make sure I'm hitting a little bit up? And we're talking like small degrees here. We're talking, if you're hitting like, you know, -3 down, we ideally want to be hitting, you know, sort of 2 degree up. So the next part I would look at is actually get yourself on a TrackMan. Start looking at some of these numbers. Okay, you'll notice that some of my club path's a bit left there. You'll notice that my attack angle plus 9.8, as I said, very high. But you also have to realize the higher your attack angle, the more likely you are to go left. All right, as you think about you swing up, you naturally then come round if you're hitting it more on the up. So that's actually not too bad. But the more you can start then understanding your numbers, again, fitting will help with this. The more you can understand your numbers, you will then figure out how much loft do I need on the club? What's the optimization in terms of spin? As you've seen there for me, quite spinny that one, 2,700. Realistically, I want to be more around 2,200, yeah? But figuring out what's your spin, what angle of attack am I coming in the ball? How can I look to just optimize that a bit more? That's where your next 15 yards are going to come from. Because when it comes to getting prepared from a long drive comp, once we've done all that speed work, once we've made sure that we're hitting that ball right out the middle, optimizing ball speed, we then think about how can I optimize where I'm at in terms of delivering the club. All right, and this final bit that we're going to go through is just talking about driver setup, making sure we've got the fundamentals right, so then we can make sure we actually deliver that club in a place that's going to optimize that ball flight, optimize that distance, and optimize the accuracy. Nowadays, technology's got us in a place where no matter what shot shape you kind of hit, you can get distance. Like back in the day when drivers are really spinny and the balls are really spinny, you need to be hitting a draw to make sure you're getting it out there. Now don't get me wrong, a draw is still probably going to go probably the furthest on average. However, there's a reason why a lot of people on tour nowadays are just hitting the big power fades, is because our drivers and our equipment have given us the ability to keep spin that low, as I just talked about, you know, previously in the video, that you can still hit a cut. But the key is going to be making sure that you're around where you need to be in terms of optimizing that. And that's where, as I just spoke about, where in which we're delivering the club. So if you're that person that's like, hey, I'm just, you know, my bad shot is literally hitting that big fuck off slice, just like that, then you're going to notice that you tend to be quite down on the ball. I mean, my attack angle was still positive there, but that for me was like massively on top. You might find that yours is even way worse than that, okay? But you'll also notice my club path was 9.2 minus, which means it's across the ball. That is another way we can lose distance, yeah? If you're putting a lot of energy across the ball, either direction, the chances are you're creating more force and spin going sideways, which is going to push the ball out less and also create more revs to actually go away from where you want it to be. So you're going to reduce accuracy. You know, because this was me. When I was younger, I was that hated driver. All I did was just slice it out OB, straight over the trees and just want to just walk home. So the biggest thing that I learned to do with my driver was more than anything, get my setup right, make sure that ball is inside of my front heel, but also get my weight back. Even now, with my golf coach, Lee, we're working on literally taking that left foot off the ground just to actually make sure I transfer my weight properly. Obviously, again, long drive, it's a bit more extreme than it is for your standard course golfer, but keeping that weight back already, your shoulders are now aiming up. You're looking to actually hit the ball on the up. And that is going to reduce spin. That is going to make sure that you're more consistent hitting the ball. It's going to feel better. And better yet, for you guys that are hitting the big fuck off slices, you're actually going to hit a straight ball. And you might even hit a little bit of a draw. How amazing. So big thing, keep your shoulders back. Keep that weight mainly in that back leg. And then feel like you come back as you swing through. And try and keep your head behind the ball. One of the biggest things is keeping your head behind the ball. Like, look already, I mean, that was a little bit of a cut, but look at the spin rate, 1,590. All right, attack angle 77.4 positive. Club path was still a bit right to left, not ideal. I can probably adjust that quickly, but look at that spin rate. And I've only swung 115 mile an hour there. Not slow, like really steady for me. I've hit 166 ball speed, but I've got 320 yards out of that. 320 yards, and that's just due to optimization. So again, look at the technique and where you're hitting this club. Look at what you're using. It's one of the biggest ways you can genuinely just change the game for it. And I guarantee if you're hitting it an extra 30 yards, all right, and hitting it a lot straighter, that's going to transform your golf game. Give it a go. Genuinely, these things matter. Optimize what you've got, optimize how you hit the ball, and you might just gain yourself 30 yards. And please, please, please drop me a message either on here, on this video, or drop me a message on Instagram. You send it to Aaron Martin Golf, and I genuinely love to hear about hopefully you've gained 30 yards and it's changed your game, because don't just buy any driver. Genuinely invest your money. It will make the biggest fucking difference. And yeah, you're gonna flipping love the game. All right, destroy the hell out of the like button. Please subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. On to the next.